Hey there, Eden here. And I get a lot this question, should I implement a framework like LangChain internally in my organization, or should I go with open source and use it as is? And usually my answer is it depends, like every other software engineer. However, for this specific question, I am very opinionated. The answer is go with LangChain, and I'll tell you why. The first reason, and it's a reason to using any other framework, even if it's server-side, like Flask, Django, Fast API, etc., is that frameworks are opinionated. They have very strong opinions regarding how to build certain types of applications, and in our case, LangChain is for generative AI applications. And the power of frameworks is that they're pattern-oriented according to their own best practices. Those frameworks have tried a bunch of things and they handpicked the things that worked for them and moved the things that didn't work for them. And eventually we're getting a very opinionated framework that is actually making our life very easy when we start building LLM applications. So LangChain is basically creating those best practices and enforcing it in the framework. Generally speaking, in software engineering, it is considered bad practice to implement something yourself that someone else has already implemented. They have already encountered bugs and fixed them and refined the solution they've created. And you're most likely to encounter those bugs and waste a lot of time fixing them yourself. This will lead to a lot of wasted times. I like the saying, don't reinvent the wheel. And specifically in LangChain and in LangGraph, there are a lot of smart developers behind those projects. I think it's always a good idea to learn from other developers which have more experience than you do and much more domain knowledge than you do, that have encountered nasty bugs and fixed them on their own flesh. And this is even before the LLM era and the generative AI era. Do not reinvent the wheel. And not accepting this idea in the best case is going to lead you with a lot of wasted time, which is totally unnecessary. And in the worst case, ending your project because you spend too much time in a rabbit hole fixing a bunch of problems that are not related to your own business logic. Now let's take the scenario that you've exhausted the framework and you've reached the point that the framework now is not enough for you. So you need to implement extra logic, or you need to customize it and tailor it to your own needs. By the way, with my experience with LangChain, this is not happening a lot. Anyways, in that case, you can take inspiration from that framework and implement everything yourself, or you can extend the framework, and LangChain has made it super easy with the LangChain Expression Language to do it. So you can actually inherit from their base objects and add your own logic. And LangChain transitioned to LangChain Expression Language in order to address this issue. So the framework is much more composable right now and extendable. And I want to point out a couple of more statements. One, in the LangChain framework, you can see a lot of prompt engineering work for their prompts. And you can even see, if you take a look at their commits on their prompt, that it was indeed an iterative process. And a lot of effort and thought has been put to create those prompts. So this is the first thing. And also a lot of best practices and patterns that are useful when it comes for generative AI applications. So this is the #1 place to go to when you want to see best practices for implementing those kinds of application. And my last argument is that if you think that in your team, in your organization, you can do a better job than almost 3,000 developers that have been working on this project for over a year, that have a lot of knowledge in this domain of LLM and generative AI applications, then be my guest. From my experience, it always is not working out, and at best case, what you'll implement yourself is a very, very slim version of LangChain. And a quick disclaimer over here. LangChain, like everything in life, is not perfect and it has its problems and issues, and I think the most common complaint about LangChain is that it has too much abstractions and you do not know what is happening under the hood. And oftentimes it feels like magic and you don't understand what's happening. And I think today this argument is not as valid because we have LangChain Expression Language, which we can compose and extend, and we know exactly what's happening when we use it. So LangChain has gone a long way to address this issue. And another disadvantage and discussion I've seen over the time is that LangChain is not secure and it's not safe to use it. So first of all, I have to say that LangChain has gone a long way and they have become much more stable and much more secure than they used to. So all of their logic that may have vulnerabilities in them, like running a tool for running shell commands or Python interpreter tool that may execute Python code. So all of these tools have moved into the experimental package, and LangChain specifically tells you that it's not secure to use them and that you should be careful. And the second thing I want to say, do not expect the open source framework to handle your application security. You as the developer need to handle your security. I can talk a lot about this topic, but generally I think that the principle of shared responsibility model works here. Somehow similar for using the public cloud. We have a lot of responsibility as the application developers, and we need to handle the security. The role-based access control, using insecure tools, and a lot of things can go wrong when developing LLM applications. So that's pretty much it. I didn't cover a lot of things that I wanted to cover, and I might have forgot some arguments, but please let me know what you think, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you disagree, I would love to hear your opinion.